What's up, guys? It's your boy, Radical. Now, my workout plans have been a success. More than 300 plus purchases and many more returning customers. You cannot ask for anything else, and people are loving it. The same life-changing and affordable prices still remain. So go to radicallatino.com and change your life today. Hey guys, do you have a product you want more eyes on? Advertise with the Radical Latino Show, where over 10K podcast downloads and the number 25 spot on the 55 All Latin podcast list. You'll want your product heard on everyone's phones and cars. Go to radicallatino.com/contacts and start advertising today.
Playing the Radical Latino Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands in the air. The New York's very own
Radical
Latino is taking you to another level.
I think there's more radicals than civil. Radical Latino, no it. The radical point of views, I think his views are actually more dangerous.
It's your boy, Radical, aka number 17 on All Latin Podcasts, aka number 24 on All Bronx Podcast Influencer List, and Mr. Unsuable for 78 weeks running. And remember, you can't spell radical without adding rad in it. You heard? You know what I'm saying? So, what's going on, guys? I hope everybody is doing well. I hope everybody is doing good and everybody's doing great. Remember, like, share, subscribe to this podcast, and rate me 5 estrellas, 5 stars and all that in the podcast app and all that. Remember, 5 stars, you know what I mean? And also, remember, this episode is sponsored by radfitpro.com. Radfitpro is a startup CBD company. They have 2 products out right now, Cleopatra and Ogun. These are the 2 best selling products for RadFitPro right now at this moment. So you guys go to radfitpro.com and purchase it, and you want a discount, use promo code RADICAL to get 10% off your purchase. Now, a lot of things we gotta talk about. You know what I'm saying? A lot of things we gotta talk about. But anyway, let me just give you guys some updates. Interview with me and Flo is out now. We did this interview on Instagram. Definitely go check it out. The link is down below. We pretty much talk about racism and white supremacy and stuff, and the things that we're gonna about Latin people and stuff like that. So it was a really good interview. It's an hour right on point. You know what I'm saying? So definitely shout out to Flo. Also the documentary Open Wounds, it's still on its way. Part 2 is pretty much, the script is 100% complete. The script is 100% complete. The thing is, I just gotta start shooting. So shooting doesn't start until next month, and I got a lot of things that I'm doing within this week. Getting new lenses, working with new people and all this other stuff. So I'm getting things already orchestrated. I already sent out emails and everything, and a lot of people are helping me out on the sideline. So shout out to my wifey. Also shout out to myself for giving me a lot of information and connecting me with a lot of people. And pretty much the people so far that we got confirmed are Brotep and Truth Teacher. Those are 2 people confirmed at this moment. So definitely big shout out to them. Also, I started getting a lot of messages talking about, what do you mean you're going on a new direction? You're going on a new direction. The thing is, I'm going on a new direction with the podcast. I understand that it's a little like unfavorable. I get it, but sometimes in certain situations, not in certain situations, but sometimes we have to grow. You know what I mean? I pretty much felt like I was basically repeating myself constantly on certain situations that are new to us, but the end goal and the end thing, basically the end comments are pretty much the same. It's it's white supremacy. So pretty much I already know where you guys know where I stand. So that's why I wanted to evolve a little bit more and actually start doing what Joe Rogan is doing, interviews. And that's what I always liked. I always liked having interviews with interesting people that I find interesting. people that I find engaging, people that I find that could bring a certain type of, mentality into the table. You know what I'm saying? So I'm definitely, that's the direction that I'm going with. I'm interviewing a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? And we're definitely gonna be doing that. That's the new direction. And I understand that certain people want to get my hot takes, and I'm definitely gonna be making videos on certain things that's happening, but go to my YouTube channel if you guys want that hot racial takes and all that other stuff. Go to my YouTube channel for that. But I'm a podcast. I'm just gonna be strictly having interviews with interesting people. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's the new direction. So last week, which was episode 174, I had my homie Expose the Manosphere. Shout out to him. And it was somewhat controversial. People were, there was some people that didn't like it. You know what I'm saying? Like Marquise. Shout out to Marquise, man. But he was kind of wilded out a little bit. So it's all good. First of all, let me just read the comments. So Bob says, will you interview the father of the Black Manosphere? Angry Man is actually half Afro-Latino like yourself. I didn't know the father of the Manosphere. I didn't know who that was, but I'll definitely go. I'll definitely go do that then. I'll definitely go see and reach out if I could, interview him. I didn't know nothing about him being the father of the Manosphere whatsoever. But yeah, I'll do my rounds. You know what I'm saying? I'll definitely do my rounds. Marquise. Oh man, Marquise. Wildin' out, son. This motherfucker was wildin' out. He goes, my issue with Expose. Anybody that starts off with saying my issue with so and so, is about to go crazy. My issue with Expose is that he is extremely disingenuous. He knows exactly what toxic femininity is, but like always, he will never criticize women. Ooh. I don't know. Does he? I don't know. Let's see. Girls are smart. They can see through him as well. They will agree with him, but never really trust him. Ooh, damn. Marquis throw shots. Because they know he is pandering. Oh, shit. Okay, pandering. Lastly, he never confronts the people he challenges, and often takes people's work out of context. Okay. All right. Even being as arrogant, saying he knows their intent better than they do. LOL. I mean, ha 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 ha. He may be smart, but he isn't normal. Damn, shots fired. Goddamn, shots fired. I don't know. I didn't get that from him. I could be wrong. Maybe Marquise knows more about him than I do. I didn't get that from him, but I just found it a little interesting where the toxic femininity he didn't agree with me, but it's fine. You don't have to agree with me, but I do see there is such thing as toxic femininity. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. It's fine. Hopefully Marquise and Expose can actually get together and stuff. You know what I mean? And talk their differences out. But it's all love. It's all good. But yeah, that was episode 174. This is episode 175. I'm interviewing La Chicana therapist. Now, the reason why I wanted to interview her is because I wanted to get a free therapist session. No, let me stop. No. No, the reason is because, I saw her in a previous interview, and I really started to like some of her answers and some of the things that she was bringing to the table. A lot of things I wasn't aware that I was actually doing. Some of the things I wasn't aware that I actually thought was normal. You know what I'm saying? So I found it very interesting because I started to self-reflect and was like, wait a minute, was I living like this whole time? Yeah, I am. So this is the reason why I had to push back just a little bit and really realize and take in what is going on. So I want, first of all, before, because I thanked her, you know, I was like, thank you for letting me know that I was seeing the wrong ways, you know what I mean? But it's very interesting. Sometimes we do need people to talk to. Sometimes we do need people, professionals, to basically break things down and on things that we might not see at the moment. And we might see them when they actually break it down to the point where it's very digestible. Sometimes we can learn when it's very digestible, very easy. You know, that's when we get the aha moment. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, this is the interview with me and La Chicana therapist. I hope you guys enjoy. Yo, what up? It's your boy Radical. So I always bring you guys special guests, and it isn't any different this time. And I got the one, the only, the lovely Chicana therapist. What's going on?
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited.
Yeah. No problem. Conversations, you know. But thank you for coming. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for inviting me, and we organized it and it happened. So I'm glad that we're here.
Yeah. So the first question I'm gonna ask, just to let the people know, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I am a Chicana, a therapist. I am a mother and a wife. I love to help my community, and I decided to go for my second master's degree to become a social worker. I know it has a stigma behind it, social worker, but it could be social worker slash, we could be therapist. But either way, we're social workers. It's another topic I guess we can explain, right? But I'm a social worker, but I am a clinician, and I work with the Latino community. And I find myself falling in love with the Chicano movement and our history, right, as indigenas. And although some people don't identify as Chicano, that's still okay, right? But that's what I identify as, Chicana. Mexican American, and blessed to be able to have a professional career as a therapist. So I said, hey, I'm going to help my community. I learned this, and it's only fair that I give back as well, because I love our community. It's so awesome.
Yeah. Most definitely. I live in New York, you know, so I do,
Nice.
it's mostly like Dominican and Puerto Ricans over here. You do get a big mixture of like Central, like Mexicans, Central Americans, and like
Yeah.
South Americans, but
Mm-hmm.
mostly it's like, you know, Mexicans and stuff. And I always find it very like peculiar how some of the East Coast Mexicans, the way they act or the way they interact with people is very different from West Coast.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Um, well, I mean, I've never been to New York, but I understand like what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, it's different, right? If we look at even like Mexico itself, I mean, it's Mexico, but everyone has a different type of language, right? And the dressing attire and the foods and all of these factors. So yeah, it only makes sense, right? Like how everyone is just in different areas here in the States. And I mean, Chicano, for example, in Japan, I mean, it's popular over there as well. It's pretty interesting, right? So those differences definitely, it's beautiful that it's different, but at the same time, like we, there's that culture, right, of family, food, that understanding of those, and religion, right, or spirituality, um, that brings Latinos together. And we, even though you're talking to a Puerto Rican and you're Mexican, I mean, there's that relatable, experience because of the family unity and the food, and similarities of like culture, obviously. But I think it's just really beautiful that it's different, it's diverse, but we can still kind of understand because of the culture foundation.
Yeah. I find that very very interesting. Also, like when I do run into, like, let's say a Honduran or a I'm gonna say a Colombian, you know, it's somewhat like a hey, what's up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we not know each other, but it's like, yo, like, yeah, we got you. You know what I mean? Like, it's like
Yeah.
a little bit like that. And I do feel like I feel like besides the language and the somewhat of the similar culture, because a Mexican and Dominican are completely different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we could get along though because of either the language and
Yeah.
somewhat other similarities. Because if I go to
Mhm.
Mexico, I'll be like, "¿Qué lo que es?" They're like, "Huh?" You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But I understand what you're saying. But I think the other part of that is the struggle to be a Latino here in America. I
Yeah.
think the struggle, the not only the hardship, but the that thing where okay, I'm in a foreign country, even though some of my ancestors' blood has been here,
Yeah.
I still have to find a way to maneuver around that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that us Latinos find really like empowering, really
Mhm.
really important, really something that gets us going, because that's something that we can see within each other without even talking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, yeah, I hear you. There's
Yeah,
so many struggles, right? Like
yeah,
this is our roots, and then yet we have to um well, we don't have to, but we feel like we're put in this position of just like just forget the past, like just move on. But no, that's our ancestors. There's something that our ancestors did right for us to exist in this present moment, right? um so that's very beautiful. But yes, the struggles, um our skin color, I mean, starting off with that, and then the language, right? I have met many people that say, and I was one of them when I was like in high school, where it was like I'm embarrassed to even play my Mexican music because like no, like I was embarrassed, but now I'm like I don't care. I'm gonna embrace it. Obviously, with time and understanding and maturity, I was like, why am I hiding a piece of me? Just
let it sound like a quinceañera. Who cares? You know, you know.
yeah,
No, but I feel I feel what you're saying. Like it's something that it's like we understand it, but we can't put into words very easily. You
yeah,
know? Yeah.
yeah.
So let me ask you, what made you go and choose the career field as a therapist? Is that okay to say a therapist or
Yeah.
psychologist or something? Oh, okay.
No, a therapist. Yeah,
Okay,
therapist is
like,
fine.
did you go through any trauma? Like, like what happened? Did you see something? You go like, I have to like fight for this. For like, what happened?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, um, I would start off that the relationship with my mother right there, because my dad is
Every
more
good
of the
story starts with their mother. No,
yes,
no.
you know what I'm talking about. Yes, I would
And
say
this is the
that.
reason why I don't like hugs. No, no, I'm just like, no, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say, it always goes back to our mothers and our fathers, right? Because that is like the foundation. But I've always had a very difficult relationship with my own mother. So, sometimes in homes, you would see more of like the male be the machista, right? And then we have Marianismo, which is like the submissive female. um, in my home, it was the other way around. Like my mom was more the machista and a female, and my dad was more like submissive in a way, So it's very different, because when I started learning about machismo, I'm like, whoa, wait, this is like the other way around in my home. Like, so it affected a lot of that relationship. So I wanted to also talk about, the mother daughter or the child and parent relationship, and understanding that in our culture there's a lot of similarities with that. So I wanted to gravitate to that, and also because definitely I've always loved to help people. I've seen my parents also help people, and that stayed with me. you know um Growing up seeing like my parents help my uncles, when they would immigrate to this country. So it was really nice. My family's very united, but I've always had that in me, and I said I want to help people, and I do have. I've had opportunities to work in different agencies, mental health agencies. So I was able to be around a lot of other therapists as well. But I did come across this one agency a while back to where it was a Latino community, and a lot of the therapists didn't speak Spanish. So I was like, we were translators. And I thought it was so not appropriate because the way you translate is so different. And I was like, wow, I would love to know how to be a therapist so I can connect with my gente, you know? And I was like, okay, well, maybe one day. But the thing that really made it happen was, I don't know, do you remember the Las Vegas shooting?
Uh, yeah, with the concert, the
Yes.
you the with the
Yes.
yeah yeah with the country concert, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was it that recent?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had some clients that were actually there and they were extremely traumatized. And I felt so incompetent.
Wait, no
Yeah.
way. Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah. They were
Okay.
there.
Oh,
Mhm.
now I got some more questions, but continue what you're gonna say. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So they were extremely traumatized. I was providing services for them, but I wasn't a therapist yet. And just seeing their pain in front of me, and obviously it affected a whole community, right? Um, Even outside of Las Vegas, obviously, because people were coming in from other places, right, to that concert. So I had several clients, and I was like, oh my God, I feel so incompetent. Like, I want to help them heal that pain, you know? And one day I was just on Instagram and I saw an ad for USC and they said telehealth because it's really a little far from where I live. And I was like, okay, register me like today. And it just happened. I just felt it in my gut because I remembered being in that space. Obviously, my history of things growing up with my, relation with my mother and stuff like that. I mean, there are other traumas, being assaulted by narcos when we visited Mexico. So that was very traumatic for me. And there's times where I come across clients that are Latinos that had grown up, grew up in Mexico where there is that, narc environment. So I'm able to share my story with them too, and help them in that manner. And I think that was just um, like confirming to me, like, okay, what I wanted to do, and I did it to become a therapist to help my community based on the things that I've gone through too, just makes the piece very just awesome for me, you
And
know.
I could tell you're a good therapist because you have that therapist voice.
Oh,
You know, yeah, so
thank
like
you. That's the first time I hear them.
no, it's because my mom is a therapist. So
Oh, nice. Oh,
yeah,
then you know.
my mom is a therapist. When I was a kid, I hate the fact she's like, "Tell me about your feelings," and I'm like, "No," you know. So she kind of taught me how to, like, I'm not gonna say read people, but like, coach me through, like,
Yeah.
social. Whatever. So, and she has a therapist voice too. You know what I mean? In the house, not so much.
Oh, yeah.
Over
It
the
it
phone,
changes.
over the phone. Dígame, hermanita, está bien, it's all right. Like, so she does all of that. But and for some reason, ever since then, whenever I interacted with a therapist, or I've seen other therapists, I always judge them by their voice. And if you don't have like a therapist, like, okay, that's nice.
That's
I
so
I was like,
funny.
okay, no, 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 you're not good. You're good. You're all right. But um, well, all jokes aside, but dealing with something like traumatic like that, how do you come into grips with this? Because not only are you gonna help these individuals, but you're a person with emotions also. Does that
Yeah.
somewhat like kind of affect you also?
This is why us therapists have our own therapists and we have supervision, what we call supervision, right? So we get to process all of these counter transference experiences that we deal with. And yeah, I mean, when I did come across, or when I come across young girls, right, that I can relate that they don't get along with their moms, I'm just like, oh, okay, I know, right? Like I know how they're feeling. So I feel like, okay, let's get in deeper because I know that, but um with other situations, that come up that are triggering, I have to process it. I mean, there was times when I first started where I would see a client, I would see 5 clients back to back. At the end of the fifth client, I was emotionally like just physically drained. And I couldn't I'm like, no, my God, like grad school didn't tell us this. They didn't tell us that you're going to feel like so like drained, like of energy. I mean, they did highlight a lot of self-care, and that is something that now I understand. I'm like, oh, that's why they kept saying it all the time, but it can be draining, but as therapists, it's very important to make sure to take care of our mental health too. There are therapists that I've known that will say, you know what, this case is too deep for me. I can't take it. I can't take it. So it's only ethical.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Doesn't that it takes like a lot of self-reflection for you to admit something like that, right?
Yeah, it happens. I mean, and it's better for the therapist to speak up than to continue with the case, right? With the client where they're going to do a disservice.
Yeah, it's a very nice way of saying you're too messed up for me. No, I'm just like no.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not saying that. But it's more like saying like, I'm not going to be able to help you because I am still dealing with my own whatever it is,
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it does shift, into that manner. We're not going to say it in that manner, but because we care for the client's well-being, we want to make sure that they're being heard and they heal in their own way.
Gotcha.
But it's sometimes it's tough, but
that's the job.
Work.
Yeah,
What was that?
That's the job, So no, I totally understand that. Also, like, because I grew up in a household where, like you said, you saw the reverse, how machista and all this other stuff. So let me just tell you my understanding of what I thought machista was.
Yeah.
I thought machista was a man, hyper masculine and exerting his hyper masculinity in a negative way towards his woman or his wife, and it could be in the way he talks and the way he acts without having affection. That's what I thought machista was, right? That's what I thought. So I'm like, okay, so if I can go take a little bit of that, which is the masculine part, and just move around the other stuff that's toxic, maybe I think I'll be good. Then hearing your interview, put it more in perspective, was like, whoa, I was completely wrong. What? And knowing that my machista actually goes really deep into our community.
Yeah,
it really does. And the more I started to think about it, or as you probably would say, self-reflect, the more I started to think about it, I started to see, it was like, wait a minute, who taught us these terms, like this religion, our language, these cultural things? Is it safe to say, like, when the Spanish came to our land, they introduced these type of concepts?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and one thing you did say that really struck a chord with me is, you teach a man, you teach a boy, you're teaching a man. You teach a woman, you're teaching a family. And that really stuck a chord with me, because I was like, I don't know why, but it really resonated. So for the people, can you just explain that, and then we'll get into the whole machista thing? Just explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so a lot of the times, right, when it comes to boys, they look up to their dad, right? So if there's a father who is a machista, and you have this little boy who's learning from that, right? You also have mothers that will support machismo too, right? So they'll be like, nope, you can't do that because your father's going to get mad, or you have to obey your father, and you have to, because there's that machismo power and control.
Stop playing with dolls.
There you go.
Yeah.
Don't wash the dishes.
Exactly.
Don't do laundry. Don't pick up.
Or stop wearing my heels. I'm just saying, this is not something that my mom would say. No, I'm just saying.
Well, kids are curious, so it happens, and they shouldn't be punished for it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, you teach a boy something, and eventually, obviously, you're teaching a man. But when it comes to teaching a girl, that girl will eventually then teach the family. What is known is that the woman, right, is like the center of the home. There, because women were very nurturing, right? I know some might say, well, I'm not that nurturing, but most, right, are nurturing towards the partner, right? Nurturing towards the children. This is why a lot of the times many companies will target mothers, because they know that, one, because we're females, yes, we have like our emotions. We're more like in tune with our emotions, right? We can cry, but sometimes the machismo says you can't cry for men. So they'll suppress a lot of their emotions. But a lot of companies are very aware that the mothers are the center of the home, right? Not saying fathers are important, but it's just a different way of how nurture is brought into the home. The wife has to split herself in different parts. The same thing as male, but it's just different, right? Because a lot of times the common thing is the female stays at home with the kids and the male goes to work. That's kind of like the common. I know not every family is like that. So, it's really powerful. Right now, I want to add something too as I'm sharing this, because right now I'm actually sharing this book called The Boy Crisis, and it is very interesting, very, very interesting, and it's kind of attached to what we're talking about. A lot of our boys are taught that eventually you might become the breadwinner, because that's what we see in the culture, right? Like, the
society.
dads, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they say, okay, the males are the breadwinners, and you pretty much have to sacrifice a lot of your dreams, because if there's a guy, for example, if there's a guy that says they're not married, right, and they say like, oh, I want to save up to buy a home, so here comes the girl that they like. Now this male is like, oh wow, I like this female, so if I like this female and I'm taking her out to eat, that means I'm going to spend more money on this and kind of put my dream aside.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the times they might say, well, you know what? Love is important. I want a partner in life. And they sacrifice a lot of the dreams to be able to be the breadwinners, to take care of the family. But then they dismiss their own dreams or their own way of feeling, right?
Yeah.
And it just spirals, because there's something called death jobs with males.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens, okay, in our school system, literacy, math, writing, a lot of our boys are scoring very low. So a lot of males will drop out of high school. And if there's a father or a mother that is not,
so it's tentative or
yes,
yeah.
What would happen with that? Obviously, they'll just say, well, I'm just gonna get a job that pays a lot of money, even though it's risky, right? Like, construction workers, electricians, cops. I mean, there's so many other that are considered death jobs. It's riskier. They're risking their lives.
Yeah, like
what?
Ubers. The deliveries,
truck drivers.
Truck drivers.
Yeah. So higher pay, higher risk, right? And why? Because the male tends to take that role of like, I'm going to be the breadwinner. I have to be the man of the house, right? Kind of like a machista sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it's like, I have to be the man. I have to be the man.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets exhausting based on what I've heard other males share. It's exhausting. Like, who am I proving to that I'm a man? And I like
all the women out there. Yeah. No, let me stop.
Yeah. But Ian, that's the thing.
But don't you think, society wise, don't you think other men push that ideology, and also women push that ideology as well? Like, it's like a self-policing type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you think that also could be the case? Because in society, like, I had this mentality since since I was a kid. Oh my god, am I opening up? No, don't do it. Okay, so I had I had this mentality since I was a kid, and I made sure I will get myself in positions where I could actually become or be more economically better off than my either my spouse or my counterpart, in order to be that self-sufficient person to, okay, I got us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
subconsciously, I've always done that, and I've never saw nothing wrong with it. I never said like, "Oh, because I'm testing my manhood." It just thought subconsciously it's just something that I thought I was
Yeah.
supposed to do, you know. And
Yeah.
now realizing it is like, okay, maybe because society kind of like got me into, you know what I'm saying. So,
Yes.
do you think society also has a lot of roles to play in this?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I mean, we see it in movies, right? We see it
Yeah,
in like commercials, or like, I mean, we
yeah,
see it in the media, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
In dating, even women say like, I want a high earning man or whatever the case is. So like
Yeah.
I think it plays along with that, you know.
Yeah. So let me share this with you. They did actually a study,
Okay.
and there were one out of four women, one out of four women will be the only one that will say, I don't care if a male is unemployed, as long as he's good looking, I'll support him. I'll support him as long as he's good looking.
Really?
Yeah. And the other three out of the four were like, heck no. I
Yeah,
want a
yeah,
guy
yeah,
that can work,
yeah,
and I'm not going to support him. Like,
yeah,
I want him to take care of me,
yeah.
or let's work as a team. It can be a little bit of,
I understand that concept because listen, I grew up in the Bronx. I know plenty of friends who could, I'm gonna just say, live at home at the girlfriend's house because
yeah,
they could lay it down good, and they never worked, but their
yeah,
mixtape is going to pop. You know what I mean? So I understand that concept, but in the same time, those type of women are going to be like, all right, I need something more than this. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
And this is the thing, that the males who are being financially supported by that one female are the ones that act tougher in machismo to be able to balance out, like, hey, I
oh,
still
to
have a stance.
justify why. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh wow, that explains a lot of my dating. Oh wow. No, I'm just playing. No, 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 no. No, it's very interesting because I I've seen a lot of well, first of all, I've seen a lot of my friends uh try to prove their masculinity in like ridiculous ways. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And was some of it are very like life costly.
Yes.
Some of it.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point where at that time I was like yeah, whatever, you know what I mean? But as I grew up, I was like, no, that was stupid. No, that's dumb. And some of these individuals are still in that same mindset, you know,
Mm,
regardless if we want to talk about environment or whatever the case is, but
yeah.
they're still in that same mindset where they have to overcompensate their masculinity
Yes.
in a certain way. Why do you think that is?
Insecurity, not feeling
Mm,
that they belong, not feeling that they were heard,
mm,
loved the way they needed to be loved, right? A need that wasn't met. I mean, it goes way back to that relationship with the mother, right? I've always said, if you can't express it to your mother, you can't express it to the world, right? I had
mm.
seen that quite a while back, and it always stayed. And it's true. The bond that we have with our own children definitely plays a big part later on, as when they become adults. Just like that little boy, right? We're talking about that male, those males that are just like adding that, that extraness to just to prove that they're men. I just say, like, look, you're already a man. Like, who are you trying to prove? A lot of the times it's like, I'm still trying to prove my father, and I'm 45 years old, you know?
Damn.
And it's
Wow.
sad.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know Wow, that's crazy. And one thing that you said, which also was really interesting, is that the more a man wants to prove their masculinity, especially when women are around, the more dangerous it will be for those women.
Yeah,
Explain,
domestic
explain,
violence.
explain that.
Yeah. So domestic violence definitely plays a big part in that. There's a lot of power and control, a lot of insecurity, a lot of jealousy. Um, and, you know, in the example that I was giving about that one female out of four that's willing to just, it doesn't matter if, you know, he doesn't work or doesn't take care of me financially, as long as he's cute and doesn't leave me, you know, kind of like buying that love. I mean, it's disrespectful. One, it looks bad as a male to allow that to happen, right? Because then you're pretty much saying I'm incompetent enough not to get a job on my own. But there's this in the book called The Boy Crisis, it pretty much addresses that if it's really hard, if it's really hard for a male to find a job, imagine how hard it is for that male to find a love, a wife, a partner, right? Because there's a lot of fear of rejection. Remember, let's go back to the upbringings. If the mother rejected that boy, if that father rejected that boy, and that little boy didn't feel accepted or like they belong, they continue to live a life and feel like, whoa, I want to avoid rejection as much as possible because I know it feels really bad and I've been through it too many times. So I'm just going to put a facade and I'm going to act tough, right? Because toughness is actually considered weakness, right? But we think it's
Yeah.
good. You know
Uh-huh.
what I mean? Like we don't have to prove to anyone, and this goes for females and males. We don't have to prove to anyone who we are. If you know who you are, that's all that matters. You know, standing in your own firm like self-worth. But when we don't know who we are, and there it's very rocky, we will start behaving someone we're not. You know, trying to people please a
Yeah,
lot.
I find that in a lot of relationships who pretty much their identity is a relationship. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I
Mm-hmm.
find that exactly like for example, if a girl or a guy, whatever, wasn't, you know, overly jealous, and they get with a partner that's overly jealous, they're gonna start adopting some of those traits.
Yeah.
You know, so what do you think that also plays into the whole thing?
Yeah. I mean, it does. Right now that you're saying that, it reminded me of this one video I saw, and it said, if you were to line up all of your exes, okay, um, what would they have in common? The only thing that they would have in common is that you, you're the only thing they had in common. So
My thing will be like they left the party early, you know?
yeah, that too. They left the party early.
They left the party
Yeah.
early, you know what I mean? The party was already getting started. No, but
Yeah, so I mean
yeah.
that's the thing, right? The only thing in like all the I don't know, who knows, everyone has many different numbers of exes, but whenever we hear someone say, you know, I had a partner that was like this, and then I got another partner that was like, oh my god, they all sucked. It's not that they all sucked. It's like, where are you centering yourself? Why are you gravitating to that?
Exactly. I've always whenever I did speak or deal with someone, right? I've always asked, okay, what happened to your last relationship? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
whenever they speak on the whole, well, this person, this and this person, this, and they never take self accountability for something, I'm like, wait a minute, there's something off here,
Yeah.
you know? And I
Yeah.
made sure whenever I did speak to someone or whatever the case is, I always was like, okay, this is what this person did, and this is what I also did. You
Yeah.
know, what?
Yeah.
Why do you think most people want to just say, okay, this is what this person did, and not take self accountability for anything?
Because it requires work. It requires work, you know, to be able to dig in deep and to really find out like why, you know, like what is my why, you know, and it hurts, you know, when you go deep and you talk about those wounds of what maybe a father and mother did, right? This is why I always say that constructing something takes time, but destroying something can be very easy. We can self-sabotage our own being, and it's easier, right? But cuesta to try to implement and learn new things and change habits and start to love ourselves for once, in our lives. And this goes to even, I mean, anybody, right? No matter what age, no matter if male or female, self-love is very important. But then we have a culture that says like, no, 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 eso no está bien. Primero Dios, then tus hijos, and después ya forget it, you all the way to the end, right? And it's kind of seen like if it's like in a negative manner, like self-care, self-love is negative, and we need to start kind of shifting that in order to be able to heal,
And I'm glad you said that because I think mental health is a huge thing that we have to,
Yeah.
dive deep into. And something that I've noticed, men don't like to talk about their issues. It's more easier for women to talk their issues out
Yeah.
than to men to talk their issues out. Listen, I'm the same way. I'd be like, no, there's nothing wrong with me. You know what I'm saying? But you
Yeah.
got stabbed. Don't worry about it. That's just, I'll walk it off. So like I understand. I understand that. But why do you, does it go back to the whole machismo thing?
Yeah, yeah, it does. It can go back because machismo is insecurity, right? Machismo is having fear of rejection, just the fear of being hurt. Maybe again for the 2,509 time of my life.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know?
That's funny. No, because again, I did a lot of self-reflection within, my lifetime. And I've seen some of the errors of my ways, and I change it. Have not like I use even as a little kid, I always use like comedy or whatever, or little things here that should like break the ice, or to just further conversation along, or just to have a connection with someone, so we could be
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean, to get like close, like, hey, what up, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if you
yeah,
noticed that, but
yeah.
yeah, of course you got plaques in the wall, of course you notice it, that's probably like section number 21. You're like, oh yeah, okay, oh, he's this, that means you're, classic textbook. No, but no, but the thing is that I've I've seen, again, I've done a lot of self-reflection. I've ran through, listen, a lot of guys don't go through that. A lot of guys
Yeah,
think like, listen, I'm good. I literally don't need no help. You need help, and don't tell me
yeah,
what to do. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
and I find it so like brain dead. Like, dude, there's obviously something wrong with it. If I can see it, then definitely you can see it. But
yeah.
let me ask you, what are your thoughts on toxic masculinity? What are your thoughts on that?
Ugh. I mean, the first word itself, right?
Yeah.
Toxic, unhealthy,
Mm,
um, illnesses. I'm gonna say that
mm,
when there's toxic masculinity in regards to machismo, even marianismo too, there's a lot of suppression, right? Um, the body, the physically starts to take a toll. We start to become codependent on many habits like addictions. It can be pornography, sex. It can be shopping. It could be sugar, right? Foods. It could be what like excessive work, like workaholics, right? I mean, there's so many type of addictions that we gravitate to as human beings to be able to cope, but then we have to really cope in a healthy manner, not in a destructive manner, right? Because then we start attacking all those people around us, because misery doesn't love, I mean, misery loves company, right? So if we don't start making good choices, because it's not just about what we think, it's about also about the options and the choices we make. So I remember reading this quote. It says, be careful what you think, because your thoughts turn into words. Be careful what you say, because your words turn into actions. And be very careful what you do, because it can really affect your future, right? So it all starts in the mind. How do we perceive life? Why do we if it's males or females, why do you perceive life negatively? Who hurt you? Let's start off there, right? Are
The
you
classic line. Who hurt you? The classic line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then just, being okay with sitting with our emotions. This is what I find really interesting,
Yeah.
that all of us human beings, honestly, I can actually say all of us human beings sometimes have a very difficult time being honest with their own being. Just owning our emotions by ourselves when no one even knows, no one's hearing us, but it's so hard. But it has a lot to do with shame, that I'm not worthy enough. Why aren't you not worthy enough? Who told you that? Well, nobody.
My mom.
Okay,
No,
then.
let me stop.
Or my mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, that still doesn't define our being. Our parents will never define our being.
That's true.
Never.
That's true.
We are a different part. Even though we came from them, at the end of the day, we have our own identity. And another thing I want to add is that our parents are not just meant to be our parents.
Mm-hmm.
They're here for a purpose also aside of being a parent, right? So sometimes I say this because machismo and marianismo and all these have a lot to do with that, because even though we're adults, sometimes we can continue to keep our parents on a pedestal as like, you still have to pretty much heal me from what you did to me. There's resentment, right? So when there's resentment towards a mother or father, and then who's the second, male or female, right? Depending on the gender, your partner, right? So then who do you lash out to? Oh, well, you're going to get it because you're the second important and the first important people. I couldn't really vocalize it because I was too little and I didn't practice my voice. So now that I have a voice, I'm going to practice my anger and you're going to be my punching bag. And it just creates a cycle and it's so dangerous. And then kids are in the middle and they're like, whoa.
And they learn it from there. And all of this happened because I was 6 years old and I wanted a Power Ranger sword.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it. That's all it boils down to,
Yeah.
That's it. That's all it was.
Yeah.
But I find that very interesting because, okay, let's talk about women. Women, actually going with the whole machismo thing and actually, being okay with it. In my household, oh man, am I opening up? Okay. In my household, my mom would be like, she would take my sister and be like, no, you got to learn how to cook in the early age. You got to learn how to cook and this and this and this and this, because nobody's going to want a woman that don't know how to survive or whatever the case is. I'm like,
yeah,
makes sense, but at that time I was like, well, maybe if I'm by myself and I don't know how to, maybe I should know how to, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe I should learn.
How am I gonna survive?
Exactly. later on, like after I'm like already 16, 17, and she's like, well, might as well just come here, and but I've seen that dynamic also. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now let me ask you, do you think there's such thing as toxic femininity?
Yeah.
Explain.
For sure. There's a lot of women trying to act like men, in a way of, okay, let me box down. Let me, like I mentioned, right? Like I grew up seeing my mom being like the one that's extremely strong-minded, she wasn't passive. So it was like, whoa, like, okay. So yeah, I'm strong-minded, but this is the thing that with time, it was like realizing like, wait a minute, I don't have to be my mother and I don't want to be my mother. I want to be my own person. Yeah. And it took time to kind of like, despegar, to understand and separate myself from that concept. But there are females. And again, I'm sharing that about my situation because many females grow up seeing that same example with their own like mothers or like their fathers. There are single fathers that raise their daughters very tough because it's like, no guy's going to mess with you because I know how guys are. You know what I mean? So then or single mothers, there's a lot of single mothers that raise their daughters like, no te dejes. Like, they did it to me. Your father left me and I don't want that to happen to you. So they're already like programmed to kind of be like tough as well. And it backfires.
I've dated this Puerto Rican chick, and she was raised like that too, to the point where any little small thing, she felt like it was a test to her as a person. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like,
yeah.
for
Yeah.
example, if I'm trying to be nice, and be like, all right, you get dinner, I'm gonna get this, and she's like, what? Well, you think I don't got it? And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? What does that have to do with anything? You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
so, so I see what you're saying. So let me ask you, what are your thoughts on like modern dating nowadays?
Oh.
What are your thoughts on that?
um Man, hearing a lot of people just share as well that it's so hard. It's so hard. This online dating situation, even though there's like a profile and you're like, oh, we have similar things, that still doesn't mean that that is a perfect match, right? Because I mean, we dig into more of the culture, we dig into like, what did that what's the story of that person, how is their family, relationship and so forth, right? But I think, because social media, I mean, I was born in 1980, so I remember, not barely just seeing this like in, I don't know, I don't even know what year this online dating thing started, but MySpace, right, was like the first one back in the days. So and I think now with like social media, there's a lot of disconnection. I think there's not that interperson connection. Um, and it's easy to assume certain things, right? To assume stories, and it's hard to connect.
Yeah,
But I think it just makes it harder. There's a lot of lust, a
yeah,
lot of lust. And so, when it comes to what is love, like love is patient, love is kind, love is respect, and so forth, right? And I always say that time is another word for love. If you rush into a relationship, and I say rush into a relationship because I'm not kidding you. Oh my goodness, I have come across so many cases where many say we rushed into the relationship. We got married within the 6 months or 4 months, less than a year. There's so many cases like that, um, because it goes back to him being impatient, right? What's the rush, right? What is the
that's
rush?
true. That's true.
And if we want to find that love, obviously it's learning how to be patient, not rushing it. Beautiful things come when you are able to be patient and you do things right versus rushing it. And then later on, it's like, what the heck was I doing? And now there's kids involved and now we don't want to be together. I mean,
Yeah,
divorce is crazy. Oh my
I
God.
I know. Have you heard this term, cyclical relationships?
Cyclical?
I think, am I saying it right? I don't know. English is my second language.
It's okay. Mine is too.
It's, I think it's called cyclical. Basically, it means repeating the same damaging relationship, but
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
having something to connect you. For example, a pet, a kid, a sudden trip, something that is going to connect both
A
both
healthier
both of you
way,
guys.
right?
Yeah, but yeah, something outside of the relationship that's going to come in to basically connect it. And
Mm.
I found a lot of people get into cyclical relationships. They've been broken up for like
Oh, okay.
2 weeks or whatever,
Yeah.
and the guy's goal is to get her pregnant to keep her around, which is
Oh, I see.
so.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I know. It's kind of, yeah. It makes it difficult, right? Because now it's like
Yeah,
we bought a pet when we were dating, and now the
yeah,
pet is our baby, and now we're separating, and now we're like,
exactly,
we have to go to court. I mean, people have gone to court for that, right? To be like,
exactly.
no, but I want the dog. No, but it's mine,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think we all want to love and be loved, and we all want to connect in a certain way, right? So that's just how we are as human beings. Is it wrong? It's part of our nature, but
Mhm.
we do want to be able to be patient, with like, hey, if it wasn't serious, why did you commit to something a little bit more a higher level than the relationship itself? you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I think it does go back to patience. I had shared before that patience for people who are impatient are people who are suffering, because they're not enjoying life. They're not present. They're just into um, this like fantasy land kind of approach to where like this is how I want life to be, and it has to be like this is this. But reality doesn't look anything close to it. So the implementation of making healthy choices, right? Being patient, um, educating ourselves in different ways. I mean, there's people that say, I'm not ready to date, but I want to be able to heal myself first before I go there, right? Is there going to be a time in our life where we're going to say, okay, I'm done healing? No. No, there's always going to be something, right? What happens? Right now, we can say, I'm done. I'm done healing. But guess what? We have loved ones around us, and, God forbid, but when that time comes of them passing away, grieving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, here's
Yeah.
a pain I have to work on now.
That's
So,
the when the real crying starts.
oh my God,
Yeah.
it's a scary one. Yeah. But
Yeah.
healing is not pretty, but healing is rewarding at the same time too, when you're able to feel that change, because only when you have implemented, knowledge, new habits, new choices.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I've the reason why I asked you about modern dating and things like that is because I I'm starting to see a shift in how dating in general is being viewed now because of these apps.
Yeah.
Um, a, a lot less people are meeting organically, and they're just meeting through the apps, and
Yeah.
it's a quick approach type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like certain men think that it'll be a quick approach with whatever their agenda is on these
Yeah.
set called apps, right?
Yeah.
Now, uh, I've also found it that certain women will use these apps in order just to boost either their ego as well, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I find it very interesting because I'm like, isn't this whole thing supposed to be to meet someone, not to like individualistic type of gains? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, yeah, everyone's intentions are different, right? When they're going into that app, it can be like, hey, hormones,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
or it's just like, oh, I just want a friend, or I want to, booty call or whatever. Um, or there's some that I know I'm really serious, right? I want something serious. But if you have one person coming in that's serious, and then here you come another
and
person who is,
43 other people are like, no, we just want
yeah,
to,
so it
yeah,
is really, really hard.
yeah,
I mean, I have met people that did meet online, and I'm not saying they're perfect relationship, but like, they're lasting for many years already so far. So,
gotcha.
but relationship at the end of the day is work, right? If we look at the culture, like from like India, right, where the
Mhm.
parents get to choose the partners,
Oh
right, for their
yeah,
kids. Like, well, in our culture, we'd be like, no, no, I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
want
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But
exactly.
I do have a friend who, he's like, you know what? I said, isn't that really hard? I'm like, aren't you like scared? They're like, he's like, no. He's like, the thing with our culture is that we have so much respect for our fathers and for the father and mother, that we trust them. We trust them so much. And what happens is that love grows. So even if you marry someone who you don't love, eventually you get to learn how to love them. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, okay. So when you're talking about the dating, right? And if people connect, um, in different ways, I mean, whatever's meant to be is meant to be, right? Aunque te quites, whatever's
yeah,
meant for you is meant for you,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So this is where a lot of times it's like, well, maybe she liked him more than he liked her, but with time he's like, you know what? Like I like her and I'm falling in love with her.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
it happens with many relationships. But
yeah,
time is another word for love, just how it is the importance of implementing time to heal, right? For our own being, time to love and get to know someone versus rushing it, right?
true,
Because we
yeah,
can actually fall in love more with a fantasy than with reality. In dating, that's what normally happens. Sometimes
That's
like,
true.
oh, I'm in love with a fantasy scenario that it's going to be like this, and this. And then
Yeah.
you get disappointed because it's like, oh, wait a minute, it didn't happen. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I find it mostly I find that women tend to have that fantasy of the perfect guy, even though there's a bunch of red flags going around, and like ignore, ignore,
Yeah.
ignore. You
Yeah.
know, and they like have a Mr. Perfect. And I always find that really peculiar. Like, no, you know, if
Yeah.
he's
Like Prince Charming, right?
yeah, exactly. Like if he's telling you one thing, uh you know, take it for what it is, don't ignore it. You know, he's telling you what it is, you know. But I always found that very interesting. But also with men, I find it that, you know, we're more logical when it comes to certain things, but also we don't learn how to read the clues within
Yeah.
some females. Like, you know, when they say certain things, we like, huh, whatever, you know, and just you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I
No,
think
I
that
hear you.
I think communication is something important that we definitely need to start working on with women and men, you know. But one
Yeah.
thing that I don't know, have you how connected are you with this whole like um dating atmosphere in on YouTube?
The dating.
Atmosphere on YouTube, yeah.
Well, I'm
Like
married, but
okay. No, I'm not
but
talking
I
about
don't.
that. I'm talking about like these dating advice coaches and these dating experts on
Yeah.
YouTube. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. No, no, no. That's what I was saying. I'm like, I'm married, so I really don't gravitate a lot, well,
Yeah.
at all, I should
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
to
yeah.
any of that out there. But based on what I hear from some of my friends that have, um, are looking, one of my friends definitely said, girl, take care of your marriage because it's freaking crazy out here. you know and I, now she's found someone, but for her, seeing her, how she would get her hopes up and then like she would be like kind of like heartbroken. I think a
Mhm.
lot of these messages from people that are telling you, like, like dating coaches, honestly, I think that you if you feel that you need a dating coach, this is just my opinion, okay? But if you need like a dating coach, it's because at some point, right, one, you're afraid of rejection and they can help you with that, right? But the other is that, what does love mean to you? When was the last time you actually felt loved, to know what it is and how it feels like? I remember reading this quote, and I talked to, some of my clients that do share about dating. And I share this quote because it always stayed with me. I mean, I love quotes. As you can see, I'm always like, here's a quote.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it said, when you meet someone and you get butterflies in your stomach, you start to behave someone you're not. And that's not a good connection. But if you meet someone and you don't feel those butterflies and you can be yourself, that is the person. I was like,
Mm,
interesting. So that's what I can share about
mm,
that,
yeah, yeah.
But I
That
think some, what was
now,
that?
yeah. Now let me ask you something. I'm gonna rattle off a couple of quotes in your expert opinion. Tell me what the first thing that comes to mind, and tell me just for jokes. Tell me if that's a right advice or wrong advice. Okay. So the first quote is from this podcast called Fresh and Fit. Um, they said don't date single mothers because they will bring you more headaches than anything else. You won't be an asset. You'll be actually number two because the kid will be an asset, and they're just for recreational use only. What are in your expert opinion? Yeah, I saw your face already. In your expert
Yeah,
opinion,
whoa.
in your
Okay,
ex, okay,
well,
in your expert opinion, what do you think about that?
first of all, I would say that the person who wrote that is someone who has been hurt many times,
Oh, okay.
you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is that for everyone? Is it factual? Like 100%? No,
Mm-hmm.
it's not,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because what makes a person useless?
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
um, uh, I don't agree with
Mm-hmm.
it. Because I think that, again, remember we were talking about, right? If that person, whoever wrote that,
Mm-hmm.
lined up their exes,
No.
what do they have in common? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's them, the perception. There's something that person learned growing up to
Okay.
think that that's wrong. But
Got it.
one day, this is what happens in life. That person who probably wrote that, right, can have a daughter. And that daughter down the line might one day be that single mother. And would he think the same thing? I don't think so.
Now let me add some before I go to the second quote. Let me add some context, right? What if, let's say, this individual who's a single mother, has a really toxic baby daddy and makes it impossible for new potential partners to come in. Don't you think that might be a reason why certain men will be a little scared or turned off on that situation?
Some men, not
Yeah.
all.
Well,
Not
yeah,
all.
not of course, not all. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. There would be the men that are probably very insecure, not knowing how to handle that situation, are the
Got
ones that
it.
would probably give up. But
Got
there
it.
are men who are saying, like, no, I love her. I love this child. I'm going to protect them. And I'm here and we're a team.
But
And
but but doesn't love like have to like don't you have to like create it? I mean like it takes time for it. So if homie crazy, I don't think it's gonna take a lot of time to to like have that marinate.
yeah, no, I mean, it does take a toll, that for sure.
Of
Right.
course, yeah.
But, you know, this is why, it's because every case is so different that
It is.
sometimes, yeah, there's
Because
times
mind you, this
where,
this quote is just like generalizing. And I know it's not everybody. I'm just throwing it out
yeah,
there. Yeah, but go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, no, I think that it does when two people are not able to co-parent, right, for the well-being of the child, and then you have like a stalker, someone that's just being so
Yeah,
immature.
yeah.
um it does bring conflicts into, the mom and the new partner, right? It does bring conflicts, especially, I mean, there's a lot of factors at play, especially if maybe she gives in to the ex and then is trying to please the partner, so she's like in the middle, because that happens a lot. And then it's like, how do I even like handle this? And yeah, there is a percentage of relationships that don't last because of it, but there are males that are saying, you know what, like, we're gonna figure this out and we're gonna make this happen, because love conquers all, right? Like, it's stronger when it's the pure love and respect.
Gotcha.
um because love is not just beautiful and sweet and happy. Love
Of course,
hurts,
it's
right?
it's hard work. It's hard
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Yeah. So in order for love to hurt, you have to go through challenging times to really prove that, are you really willing to be with me in life through thick and thin? Like, are you sure? Okay, life is like, well, I'm gonna test you, right?
Yeah.
And it is. I mean, I've seen relationships where they're like, nope, no nos vamos a dejar of that ex. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
let myself, you
Yeah.
know? And it,
Yeah.
it happens. I mean, eventually that's exhausting for an ex
Yeah.
to be behaving in that manner, right? But
That's true.
um it is a challenging one. Is it easy? No. Is it get to the point where every situation that's similar to that is not going to make it? No. There's
Got it.
situations, where they break through and they're able to then talk about it and be like, that was crazy, right? Like, we
Yeah,
we
yeah, that
came
was
out of that
crazy.
like forest,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I feel you. Two more quotes and then we'll start wrapping it up.
Yeah.
Uh, this quote comes from Kevin Samuels. I don't know if you've probably heard who Kevin Samuels is.
No.
He said, "A high value man has a lot of options, and is that man's right to exercise those options when he sees fit." What are your thoughts on that?
I I mean,
You
this
could
is
read
just,
between the lines, right? What he means by that?
yeah, like options, like meaning women.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, so do women, right?
Yeah.
So do women.
Yeah.
So do we. I mean, everyone has that. Everyone has a choice, at the end of the day, I mean, there's some that don't like, other cultures or like, other factors, but majority of the time, I mean, it having the choices, yeah, out there. But if it comes to like, um, I can choose the flavor of the day or
Hmm.
I've heard clients say that, and it's like, yeah, when I get tired, I just get another flavor. I'm like, whoa,
What?
yeah. I had a client that
I,
said that at one point. I was like, alrighty then, yeah,
I never heard that. I heard other people like justify it like you hate eating steak all day, right? So you don't want to always eat the same meal twice. And I'm like,
yeah.
uh, what?
I know, but you know
Yeah,
what? When that approach and those comments come that we just shared right now, there's commitment issues. There's a
yeah.
lot of commitment issues, and I've come across. I mean, how we say I come across because I've come across different cases, but a lot of men who are mujeriegos, right?
Mm.
End up being alone for many years or when they become seniors, right?
They don't know how to
Because
stop.
they don't know how
And
to
yeah,
stop. There's commitment issues. There's machismo. There's pride. I mean, unless a person likes to be alone, then and they're prideful, then you're gonna be alone a lot of the time because it's not healthy. It's not just about oneself. It's about the family, the community, right? No one succeeds in this world alone. We need each other,
that's true.
right? And the value that of how we treat, like how men treat women. I mean, I personally don't like when I see, or hear music that are demeaning us females. It's
Mm.
like, no, I don't like it. If other females like it, well, it's unfortunate, but
Yeah,
I guess that's another topic right there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But in regards to that
To the quote.
quote that you're sharing is like, I mean, it can go both ways to both genders, but it's still,
Yeah.
perceived wrong for females to do it, but males, they can do it at any, they can have many women, but women can't have.
I like what you just said, which goes to my third and last quote.
Hmm.
It comes from the same person from the first one. He said, uh, men and women are very different. Men can have multiple partners and not have no emotional attachment, regardless when females can't do so because their emotional attachment is within that sexual partner. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Um, I agree in the part that yes, because we are more emotional, right? But that's still not going to remove the fact that a man is not emotional either, right? We're not going to remove that.
True.
So, and again, is it a perception of like, I have to show that I don't care and I don't have emotions because I'm a man? I mean, that's lying to oneself, right?
Yeah.
I have sons, I have brothers, I have a father and I have a husband. And so, do they have feelings? Yes. What makes them different just because they're males? No, no. Um, I think that um, I men have the right to love and be loved, and I think they're sometimes afraid. I mean, some also with females, right? Not just, but just talking about males right now, that many males should be okay with being in tune with their emotions, and sex is not love. I mean, if I I remember hearing this, if sex defined happiness, then you know prostitutes would be the happiest people on earth. I heard that one time and I'm like, well, they're victims, right? They're victims of
Yeah.
a situation. But I heard that and I'm like, well, sex doesn't define love. Sex doesn't define happiness,
Mm,
right? It's lust and it becomes an addiction, right? It
yeah.
becomes an addiction. And um, I think that maybe they're playing that card really, really good. But
Mhm.
is there going to be that one girl for that guy?
Probably,
definitely.
yeah, most
Oh,
definitely.
definitely.
Yeah, she's probably waiting, to
Yeah.
like wreck his heart. No,
And it
no,
happens. Yeah.
it happens. It happens.
Yeah.
Uh, so really quickly before we wrap up, what is the difference between Chicanos and Mexicans? Let some of the people know what is that difference.
Well, one, I mean, Mexican is not considered a race, right? But it's kind of like identity. But we're considered like indigenous, right? Chicano is an identity. It's a Mexican American. It's a chosen identity, right? Because not
Mm,
everyone has to be defined as Chicano just because they're Mexican American. Um, I identify as Chicana because I am in love with the Chicano movement, right? A movement with many movements that created an impact into our community, right? To where Mexicans and Blacks were not allowed in restaurants or certain locations, right? There was a lot of discrimination. So when I think of Chicano, I feel like I'm representing that movement, right, from the 1960s. Although now Chicano, the word Chicano or Chicana is perceived differently by many people. Like I said, it doesn't just mean like just us like brown people, because Mexican Americans and we're all different shades, right? So some people don't agree with that because they're like, oh, it's not just brown pride. Well, it's okay, it is brown pride, but it could also be any other color skin if they
yeah,
identify as Chicanos and they're Mexican American.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
at
yeah,
that point we're going to get so into that extent. I mean, that there it's not
yeah,
needed, but everyone's opinion is different, right?
yeah.
But
Of course,
um a Mexican obviously is known as like someone who was born just in Mexico, but Chicano is more Mexican American.
got it. I don't know if you checked out my content, but prior to this interview, I've spoken about a different racial dynamics and white supremacy within United
Yeah.
States when it comes to Latin folks, and I find it very peculiar that a lot of, especially Mexicans, would rather choose to be identified with white
Yeah.
than with anything. Why you think that is?
Well, I mean, this goes back to, the rape of Mexico, right? The indigenous, are the brown indigenous, right? Where it's like, oh, you're brown, you're not good. You have to be white with colored eyes, or, to be
Yeah,
able to matter, kind of
and the whole
thing.
blanquimiento and mejorar la
Yes.
raza and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. And then you have Mexicans that will literally talk bad about their own family members because, oh, está prieto or prieta, and it's
I
like,
find that weird. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know. And it's like,
Or they
yeah, and
will
what?
insult each other like at the indio. And I'm like,
Yes.
yo,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's really sad, but I
We-
think as our generation, because we can see it in the platforms of social media, right?
Yeah,
It's just beautiful. Like our generation are coming and they're like, we're like re-educating like the whole situation of
yeah,
the stigma.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
really nice, like your platforms and Flo's platform. I mean, like it's just amazing how we are just educating the next generation that
yeah.
it's like, I never knew that I was indigenous because my parents never talked about it. Like my family never talked about it.
Usually, a lot of Latino families don't talk about
They
that.
don't.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really weird because in Latin America, race is classified within the caste system, mestizo, mulatto, and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Here, you're either white, black, or native. That's it. It's over, right? So
Yeah.
that's the reason why I since Latino is not a race, Mexican is not a race. We're
Mm-hmm.
ethnicity. I've been trying to advocate for our own census box to get our
Yeah.
own race, classification. What it was going to be called, I have no idea. But I
Yeah.
think politically speaking, we need our own census box. And the reason why,
Mhm.
own census race box. And the reason why I say that is because with an ethnicity, any other person could just jump in and say, "Oh well, I'm 1/8
Oh,
Colombian.
I know.
I'm a Ted Cruz now." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And these individuals don't have the best interests with us. And this is the reason why I wanted to talk about this subject last, is because get all the light stuff out the way. Let's get into the heavy things. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I came up with a classification, B and A, Brown Native American,
Mm,
and I've been using this hashtag. I made an episode on that. And I encourage every Latin person to use that hashtag BNA, 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 Brown Native American. The reason why is
yeah.
because we have a special lineage and a special connection with our ancestors in the Americas. Our blood is literally connected from
Yeah.
North America to Central and South and the Caribbean. All of
Mhm.
it, all of it is connected. And a lot of us Latinos are not aware of that, and it takes a lot
Yeah.
for someone to reject the Mexico, to reject
Yeah.
the Hispanic. It takes a lot. And the fact that you call yourself Chicana says that you had a lot of education to be like, okay, I'm rejecting this and I'm giving myself my own identity, and this is the identity that my people came up with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
what do you think about my concept about making our own race, brown Native American? What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's you know what? It's so needed. It is
Yeah,
so
yeah,
needed.
yeah,
I find myself sometimes crossing things and putting Chicana.
yeah, yeah.
Or I know some people that say I just cross it out and put I'm just a human being, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, 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 yeah,
But yeah, it is so
yeah,
needed and I'm glad you're doing that
yeah.
because, we need to make that movement, you
Exactly.
know?
And the thing is, like, I'm half Dominican and Ecuadorian, so
Mhm.
I think I look Puerto Rican. I don't know. I come from South and also the Caribbean, and the thing about it is that I see that black folks, when something happens to them, they're very quick to mobilize, very quick. It makes the
Yeah.
news.
Yeah.
Us Latinos, in my opinion, we're politically lazy. And I know it's very harsh for people to hear that, but
Yeah.
it's true. We're
Yeah.
politically lazy. For example, when that individual in California who was 19, who was a security guard, got shot by the cops, only six
Oh,
people
yeah.
only six people showed up to that protest. You know what I mean? Again,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make a divide between black or Latinos, but what I'm saying is
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of Latinos say that racism is a black issue, is not our issue, which is completely wrong.
Yeah, no.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no. I mean, racism occurs with our indigenous, gente all the time, you know. And yes, it's true. There is a lot of that fear, What if we speak up? Y la migra? ¿Qué tal si llega la migra? You know, there's a lot of these factors. I don't think it's something maybe that we don't want to do. Like, well, some people don't want to do. I think it's just they want to do it, but there's the fear, right? Because you have an African American group. Are they going to get deported? No.
That's true.
But then we have our gente, that majority are DACA or like, they,
Yeah.
and so there's that fear, because if they leave, like everything crumbles, like, especially if they're the breadwinners, right,
That's
of the
that's
home.
absolutely that's absolutely true. And it's really weird because I made an episode on Mexican history and I connected to Latin history, right?
Hmm.
Gasoline baths, Prop 187,
Oh
um,
yeah.
um, what was it? I think the Zoot Suit riots,
Yeah.
Santo Rodriguez. The list goes on the
Yeah.
things that I've done on my podcast and speaking about these certain situations. Mendez versus Westminster. You know,
Yeah. Hmm.
these are things that I've done. These are things that I've basically, in other words, put together and said, listen, if you think you're white, white folks historically have shown you that you're not.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, shown historical proof that Mexicans used to get lynched all throughout the South.
Yeah.
They used to make it a game where they would take a Mexican, make them a run across the border and use them as target practice. So
yeah,
these are the type of things that I see, and the biggest pushback that I've gotten were not from white nor from black folks, were from my own people, especially a lot of Mexicans. Now, my question to you is, why is there a lot of self-hate or denial of racism, especially coming from America, and especially that hate coming from a Latino who is speaking out on this, saying like, "Hey, yo, this is happening." Like, what? Why so much vitriolic hate?
ignorance.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Yep. It's when someone is so programmed to think a certain way, and their pride, and this is what I know, and this is what I'm going to stand up, and not being open-minded, they will definitely close their box, and they're not going to understand the new shifts that are, or maybe the old shifts, because we're still dealing with it, right? We're dealing with so much racism still, and it's like, what the heck? Like, this happened in the 50s, we're still doing this stuff. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, it is ignorance. We all have ignorance at some extent in our lives, and I think, it's very important. This is what I would address, like, as a therapist, that when we want to make a statement, like a movement, and to share like knowledge, we want to share it like in the way, especially when it comes to what we're talking about, right? Racism and within our community, being smarter than the person who's a racist. Okay. And what I mean by that is, what happens? What do they bring to the table? Anger, frustration, shame, guilt. I mean, that they don't even really know, but racism affects the body physically as well, with chronic illnesses down the line.
Yeah.
So I've always thought, like, I don't want to put myself in that damaging zone, right? Even though our hint, they were perceived like we're the victims, right? Because it's like, but then also being a victim can be harmful.
Yeah.
Can be harmful. So we have to be very wise as to how do we maneuver through this, but yet still make an impact, right? To have a voice. When we get triggered from a comment of someone on social media, if we let that get to us, they won. So we want to always make sure, like, okay, I mean, we don't know these people on these comments, So not taking in the good as like, who it's defining me, neither the bad. Don't bring those two in as it's defining you. You already know what defines you in your heart and in your mind, because it's a dangerous place to be on both ends, racist and the victim.
And I find a lot of people deflect and say it's not racism, stop having a victim mentality, and doesn't really connect with me, because you're like, calling out racism doesn't mean that you have a victim mentality, you know what I mean? But anyway, listen, thank you very much for coming in.
You're very welcome.
I really appreciate it. Even though I reached out to you super randomly and stuff like that.
It's okay.
But it's all good. I'm glad that we had a great interview. Glad that we had a great conversation. If you could tell the people where they could find you, let them know.
Yeah, sure. On Instagram, at lachicanatherapist, and on TikTok, as at lachicanamsw.
Yeah. All the links will be down below for all her socials. And give the people one last affirmation, like any little small quotes, since you like putting quotes out. Like, what's one of your favorites?
I know. I'm like, did I already say them all?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I would say, love yourself like you've never loved yourself, in this life. We don't live here for too long. So make it special. Make this journey the best journey as much as you can to be able to leave a legacy behind for those who will remember you.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And La Chicana, thank you very much for coming in. I'm gonna catch
Yes.
everybody later. Peace.
Yes. Bye.
All right, so that was the interview with La Chicana therapist. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned a lot. I hope you guys really took everything that she was saying to heart. You know what I'm saying? Because we were talking about a lot of things that, you know, pretty much a lot of people don't like to talk about. You know what I'm saying? And about machismo, about this and that and stuff like that. So definitely a great interview. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. With that being said, remember everything down below, all that joined down below. Definitely go check it out, subscribe, you know, go follow her and stuff like that. And also, if you guys want to subscribe to me, go hit me up on Instagram and Twitter at the same name, radical_Latino_. And with that being said, I'm gonna leave you guys with my 2 favorite quotes. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And if black and brown unity does not happen in my lifetime, I might not change the world, but I might inspire the mind that will. With that being said, I'm gonna catch y'all later. Peace!